Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today. Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
All right, so let's talk about the power grid. Everyone keeps looking at their electric bills and going, what the hell? What is going on? You know, it makes me like terrified of what's coming for retirement. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I can retire, but my electric bill might go from $300 a month to $1,500 a month. I don't know. And how do you plan for that? How do you plan your life? So let's dig into it. So me and Kevin both wanted to dig into why is it going up so much? Like, what the hell is the reason? And what's messed up is I saw about 20 different reputable sources that all gave me different information and came to my own conclusions. And Kevin saw 10 or 20 different sources, came to his conclusions, and they're not the same. So basically, I don't know. I think the one thing we could all agree on is inflation had a big hand in it. But did the electric bill have a big hand in inflation? Right? Like, because it's kind of one of those chicken or the egg kind of thing. So kind of a mess. So we're going to dig into it. I'm going to tell you what I think, why it's happening. And honestly, we have some like real hard data that's going to, you know, back up what we're saying. And there are definitely reasons. It's just, what are the percentages attributed, you know, to that? But absolutely, the big spoiler here is inflation is number one. AI is up there, but inflation is really what's killing your electric bill, and it's brutal. All right, let's talk about it. So how much has your electric bill gone up? Like so I have, let me pull up the chart on this one. All right, they said on average between 2019 and 2023, we were averaging about a 5% increase each year, which honestly is not that far. It's like a heavy inflation on that percentage. But then from 2024, it actually increased. Well, between 2014 and 2024, it increased 20% overall. And it just keeps going up. We're looking at 2025. They expect a 4.7, or we had a 4.7% increase. They're expecting 3.8% in 2026 because obviously, you know, that's how things work. Things always get better, right, Kevin?
Right.
That's so
energy prices go up, but they don't go down.
Right. And I mean, that's a big thing. So people, you know, you might ask, well, what does this have to do with a prepping or off-grid channel? Well, the thing is, a lot of us want to be able to live, right? We want to be able to keep existing without eating. I think one of the big things that drive people to prepping is I don't want to be eating cans of tuna or not even, you know, cans of dog food for, you know, the apocalypse or for the future. You know, I don't want my retirement to be dog food. We always used to have that fear, you know, of becoming that little old lady who can't afford it. And me and the cats are sharing the can, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
But at least in the modern world, we could become the little old lady.
Mhm.
I mean, that
Yeah,
that
I mean,
hey,
I
that option's
I feel
out there
like
now.
it. I feel like sometimes I wanna be a little old lady, start
Uh,
knitting sweaters and shit. I mean,
oh my goodness.
it's a joke, but it happens. You know what I mean? That people
Bad.
are
Yeah.
eating cat food, and luckily, the USD, luckily the cat food is not gonna poison us. We take care of our cats now, and there's not like, awful shit in there. I mean, my
Yeah.
cat eats better than me. He's
Cats
eating
are
crab and shrimp every day.
I just bought dog food. Now, mind you, I buy a 40-pound bag, so that's pretty big. But $60. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
$60. It just hurts. And I went with the cheaper option. I looked at the $64 for $36, and I was like, nah, or wait, 36 pounds for $64. Sorry.
Mhm.
And I was like, nah, I can't do it. So anyway, let's first talk about inflation and why does that affect our electric bill. So first of all, inflation, I hate to just throw stats at you, but inflation's going up. Basically 21, 22 were like 7% on average inflation, which is very high. 23, 3.4. Then our hero Trump, 2.9, 2.7. But then 26, you're thinking Trump's still the president. We're at March and we're already at 3.3%. So
Yeah.
things aren't really looking a lot better. Although the stock market's up like a little bit and things are swinging the other way there. But it's all based on fantasy, right? So
Yeah, that's not like
if money,
real
right, if money
real
has
stuff.
no value, then it going up is kind of like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I do like going up over going down. That helps me a little bit. All right, so let's talk inflation. What does that mean to the electric company? Well, one, it's copper wire, it's transformers, it's labor, it's gas, it's stuff for your vehicles, but also turns out we use natural gas and all these things for creating electricity. So that's a big thing. One, this is something I didn't consider until I started digging into this is interest rates going way up. Turns out that makes the cost of running a business go way up.
Mhm.
And turns out electric companies, it's a business. Now, a corrupt one, mind you, but it's still a business. So, there is that. The other thing, I think this weighs very big on your electric bill is upgrading the system. So we have a couple things going on here. We have AI coming into the world, which is definitely increasing the demand. AI right now, I believe, is at like 4.5%, or like 2025, it was 4.7% of the total electric usage. I think that's what I have here. And so with that, there's a greater demand, right, for electricity. And with that greater demand, you got to have transmission lines and things that are actually going to work. So these things, one, most of our power grid is 40 to 70 years old for transmission lines. So the
Even though
transformers are
they're
aging
charging
out.
us for infrastructure, repairs. If you look at your electric bill, it
Yeah.
says, it says repairs and all that shit. That's a fee. So
Storm
maybe they just
hardening
keep
and
charging us?
wildfire protection. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we're spending like 200, and I think the one I saw was like 2 years ago, we spent 290 billion on infrastructure repair for, the grid. So it's significant. Also there is like a tiny bit of like hardening happening for all you like EMP paranoid guys like me.
Mhm.
There's a little bit of like, hey, let's kind of fix the grid and make it like work. But don't hold your breath on that paying off.
Right.
But hey, let's that was one of the things during the Gulf War. Remember the shock and awe, right? When we did that, and W was going to be our hero. So what we did, we actually threw a bunch of wooden planes, which is actually what like Iran and stuff is doing now. It's kind of ironic. But we did a bunch of planes go over that were, they were basically, dropped from bigger planes and things like that. They were decoys. And they would turn on all the radars, and then we'd see where things were. And then we actually shot like big nets all over the power grid and just fried that shit. So, maybe we do want the buried cables, right? Maybe that is the answer in the upgrade. But it all comes at a cost. Now, all right, so inflation, number one, huge. And number two, we kind of go into, well, what about the solar, green energy, right? That stuff. I saw news stories that said the reason your electric bill in Pennsylvania is so high is because we're not going green and we're not utilizing the good things. Then I saw news stories in California that were like, the reason your electric bill is so high is because we're going green. And in order to do it, we have to create all kinds of new infrastructure. Kevin, you had some opinions on this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So it turns out that there are a lot of people that make a lot of money off of coal-powered plants and natural gas-powered plants, and they spend a lot of money making sure that we think that that's the best way to go.
Best way.
That's how you invest in money. There are a lot of assholes that work for green energy companies that invest a lot of money in making us believe that that's the best way to go. And so facts don't really mean anything anymore, because everywhere you get your facts, it's supplied by somebody that's got an ulterior motive.
So you're saying the science, Kevin, it's a little questionable these days.
The science on every side is pretty questionable.
It's questionable. It's who has the money. It's kind of like the drug companies. Like, I feel like there's something, a recurring theme. So obviously solar, wind, eventually when it's all put in, super low cost on actually creating it. But obviously there's maintenance and things like that.
Right. And infrastructure that has to be built around these systems.
Built, and like I say, going on, maintenance. Now there is battery storage, backup generator, but that's one of the beauties. So the beauty of a perfect system is you don't have to worry so much about battery backup storage because you're using it and consuming it in real time, Right. Like, we'll say you use 30% of the grid at nighttime versus the 100% in the daytime. So that 30% could be from solar panels, and it could just be putting out nonstop with zero batteries, right?
Right.
In a perfect world, right? I mean, that's how that fantasy could work. But that's something to keep in mind. Solar has a place. Wind power has a place. There are places that wind power is kicking ass. And, in Texas and a lot of the big open places, they're really actually pretty successful at doing good stuff. I know we've all seen like Landman or something, or that clip on TikTok or whatever, the guy saying, oh, you use all that oil to create it, and you use all the lube to keep the thing going. And, there's a lot of bad that comes with it. And to be honest, that's absolutely true and fair, but we're moving in a direction and it's creating more and it's helping. One of the big things I always ask myself, like kind of before AI data centers became a big thing, like now they're a big talking point when it comes to the electricity. But like 5-6 years ago, that wasn't anything anybody was like, oh God, we need all this electricity for AI. We weren't even saying that. I mean, I understand AI was still there and it was a thing, but we weren't carrying on about it. So anyway, I looked it up, and 20 years ago, you were using the same or less electricity than you are in your house right now on average. They say the reason it's the same is we're actually more efficient. It's just that houses are like 30% bigger now than they used to be. So we were like 30% more efficient, but then you kind of bring it back down because, we live in luxury. We got to air condition all those rooms that we don't use, Kevin. You probably
Right.
live in a giant mansion on a hill, probably like
Uh-huh.
6,000 square feet. Is that how you roll?
That's how I live.
All right. All right. Hey, you do you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out, like, because I was like, we switched to all these LED bulbs. It had to matter. We bought all these stupid Energy Star appliances. It had to matter. And yet
It
my
didn't.
bill keeps going up. Like, that
Yeah.
doesn't even make sense. And the thing is, in your mind, you're like, well, technology has gotten better. So therefore, they should be able to produce electricity cheaper, right? Isn't that was the whole, when I was growing up, we learned in school that modernization makes things better, that we can use a machine to do the work of, 100 people. So it's a force multiplier and it makes things cheap. That's why
Mm-hmm.
you get your $10 toaster, whereas it used to kind of be a big deal. Put that
Right.
crap together, because now a machine can kind of whip out, 10,000 toasters in a weekend with 5 people running it
Mm-hmm.
versus 10,000, you'd get 100 toasters with 20 people running it, in the 1870s, whenever we got toasters. I don't really know when electricity happened or how the world works, but, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and it's yeah, it didn't really seem to work out that way because toasters are expensive, and they come up with better toasters, right? It used to be, if you go to the store, you can buy like a coffee maker for about $30, right? But do you really just want the regular coffee maker? Or do you want the Keurig machine that
My
costs
wife
100?
always says we have to get the one that goes extra hot.
All right.
Because she is sick of coffee makers where the coffee doesn't stay hot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, Kevin, it might be worth the extra money.
Yeah.
I do know that, like with like Black Rifle Coffee, who is not a sponsor, but I may have reached like VIP status. So I'm just saying, like,
Oh,
my
you buy
morning,
enough Black Rifle coffee that they
said something.
he drinks
good is gonna
enough. He
happen.
drinks as much coffee as a distributor, so we'll give him the special
We'll
price.
give you the special deal. Now, I haven't seen it reflected in the bill or anything, but I've heard good things.
Yeah.
So
VIP,
I'm just saying,
man.
I was just reading something that maybe they're on some blacklist for being anti-gun or something, and I'm like, whatever. I didn't have time to read the story or care, but
Yeah.
I got enough problems in life to not like worry about that. All right, so let's talk AI, right? I said I'd get into that, and then we'll kind of talk about solutions and how you guys can fix the world and make your electric bill at least reasonable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So AI, that's the next big thing, is the AI data centers. Now,
yeah,
on the surface, the way they're reporting it is AI data centers are paying for premium rates, and they are paying top dollar for their electricity, and they're being required to kind of come up with solutions of like building a data center. Now, there are places like North Carolina, where I'm at, and some other ones that we want the data center here. So we're kind of giving them some breaks and some deals that the state
right. They don't have to pay as much,
a little bit, right, as they should.
Because it's bringing jobs to the area.
Jobs, Kevin. We all need jobs. You want a job? Come on.
Got a fucking job.
Oh, you got it.
I don't need.
A lot of people
work
have
in a data
2,
center.
3, 4 jobs. You don't need another one.
I have multiple jobs, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does now.
So, all right, but with that, so we'll say hypothetically, on average throughout the country, they're not getting a deal on average. They
according
are not
to them,
paying less, right? According to the lobbyists, after they pay everybody,
right?
And it's all good. But I will point out that electricity comes from like energy brokers.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it all gets pooled and redistributed. That's how like you sell your solar panel back to the, to the power grid. It doesn't really all come from the same place. Like
Right.
that's kind of like the scam of saying, well, I want my energy to only be renewable energy. And they're like, yeah, we'll say that yours came from the solar.
Yours came from the solar panels, right?
Right. And yeah, that's not really a thing. But
Mhm.
what it is if 60% of the people pay for mine came from a solar panel premium, they have to have 60% of their electricity come from solar. It's kind of like when you give to the United Way and they're like, oh, you can pick which organization we give the money to. However, if the ones we like don't get enough money, we're just going to use the general fund to give those
Right.
people extra. It's the same thing with your solar and like that. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're paying the premium for the solar. But anyway, from that giant distribution center, what's happening is the volume of usage is going way up because AI is now here because they're like 4.5% or whatever of our total country nationwide usage. Because there's more usage, you guys have probably heard a theory called supply and demand.
Mhm.
If there's more demand, then the supply goes down and the price usually goes up. And that's what happens. And that does affect everybody, and everybody's price goes up because of it. Now, Kevin, that's good things, right? You were telling me earlier about the farmers in the Midwest. I mean, it costs money to bring those power lines out to that one farm in the middle of nowhere, right?
Right. And it costs the farmer the same amount, right? So if they hook up my house in the city, where they go house to house to house, it costs a certain fee. But a house out in the country, obviously the cost is going to be more, but they have to charge the same fee for that person because the system is set up, designed to provide electricity for everybody in the country nationally. Now, that was set up in the 20s, and it made sense then. Now that system is still in place, but if you want to set up a data center in the middle of nowhere, they have to set that system up for the same price as if it was right next door to your house, right? So the same cost for an urban connection, it's the same cost for an urban connection as it is for a rural connection. Data centers currently, or 2023, we're using 176 to 183 terawatt hours, which is about 4% of all national annual electric use. So that's expected to triple, though, in the next 15 years. So these data centers are using a high amount of electricity, and they get it's privately. These contracts are not public record, like you can't actually access it. According to them, they're paying the same amount of electricity as you are per kilowatt hour. And we just have to believe them, I guess. So concentrated areas, though, have certain areas have concentrated usage of these data centers. So Virginia, in the state of Virginia, 20% of the electricity used in the entire state of Virginia goes to data centers.
Yeah. And
so that's
like
more than a quarter of their electricity is to supply data centers in Virginia.
And that's one of the things is the places that are hit really hard, when you're really affected by it. Another thing on the list is EVs, electric vehicles. So right now they're somewhere between, they're less than 1%, but 1% is a lot, right? Of electricity, but it's a little less than 1%. But they say by 2030, with the new requirements, that it's supposed to be between 4 and 6% of the electric grid is going to EVs. So that's another big, I don't know if I would say it's a concern. I mean, maybe it's good for people in their mind. I don't know. Not really in my mind, but I mean, I guess it's good if you're in the city, right? And you're all dealing with the choking on carbon fumes from, like you can't tell me that if you go to California, like LA or something, you can see the smog and
Yeah, absolutely.
there is, it's a real thing. When you put a ton of people together, it kind of makes a difference. Although I don't notice it as much in New York. I gotta say, it's kind of weird.
It's all the subways, man.
It's the subways. We keep it under the ground.
And the rats breathe all that stuff up.
And the rats are filtering it. I mean, really, the rats are doing the work so you don't have to, right?
That's right. They're filtering the air out for you. They're breathing in all those carcinogens. There's more rats than people in New York City, and that's really something to strive for.
Right. So let's talk now. We need to go the other way. How do we fix it? How do we fix it on a personal level? Because Kevin, you're obviously going to go out and vote for the right people, and you've come up with the perfect plan of how we're all going to move forward as a country to satisfy all the electrical things. So just vote for Trump or vote for Kamala or whatever it is.
I've got it all straightened out. Vote for Kevin. Got it all figured out here.
Okay. All right.
So let's talk about the appliances that cost you the most.
If Kevin doesn't fix it, where do we go? What do we do?
HVAC. That's the number one power use in your house.
Absolutely.
Heaters and air conditioners. That's responsible for 40 to 50% of your household use.
Yeah. I think on average, the last chart I saw was like 47% is heating and cooling.
And that's because it's not just because they're high energy use, but it's because you run them for a long time, right? During the winter, you're running the heat. And during the summer, you're running the air conditioner, and you run it nonstop, basically, Right. When I turn it on and it stays on.
The furnace going, and I'm like, oh God, all that gas just going and going. And not because I'm like, oh, the planet. I'm like, oh, that bill, that guy's going to come back. Tank's going to be down to empty. I just hear it on all the time. And you freak out. Now, houses are getting better, right? We are doing better at insulating, but that's something you can do, right? Dude, you're not going to believe. I looked up on the Department of Energy site. They think that in the summer, we should be keeping our house at 78 degrees. Are you keeping your house at 78 degrees?
I don't actually use air conditioning because who can afford that shit?
You're not rich enough.
I don't wear clothes all summer.
And then it's like 63 degrees they want in the winter. I'm like, are you guys kidding me?
Yeah.
So I'm
put on a goddamn sweater. You got to wear long johns in your living room now.
67 and 72. I'll let you guess which months I'm doing which. But,
wild fluctuation. Now, I mean that is the best thing to do during the summer and during the winter is to increase the temperature during the summer and decrease the temperature during the winter. Put on a goddamn sweater. My dad always told me that, and do it.
Yeah, the parents, like mom and dad will go to work and you'll turn the thermostat up to like 72, 73. And you're sitting there with the tank top, like in the middle of the winter, playing video games. And dad comes in and is
and he knows immediately. Somebody touched that certain thermostat.
He's having a stroke coming in. You know how it is. But we could kind of isolate the which rooms have, like having split systems and things like that can make a big difference, right? Like it sucks on average to keep my house perfect temperature. It's like a balance of upstairs and downstairs and keeping everybody happy. Like I could get away a couple degrees warmer downstairs in the summer if the upstairs wouldn't be dying,
Right.
So that kind of stuff, it matters.
You could also replace, make sure you regularly replace your filters for your heat and air conditioning.
That makes a huge difference. Also, they sell energy efficient thermostats, right?
That's right.
So what now? I know everyone's like, well, I don't want the government knowing my business, and it doesn't have to be like that. But you can have ones that when you go to work for 8 hours, it doesn't keep the house at 62,
Right. It automatically decreases or increases based on
your electric usage. So you can do that. You can program it to, work the right way, right?
Mhm.
So that's something to consider. Another thing that you guys kind of is unique and weird. I was looking at geothermal stuff. Now, a lot of you off-grid types, turns out if you take a pipe and you ran it for 40 feet, like an 8-inch diameter PVC, you
Mhm.
buried it 4 feet down, and you had an intake and an exhaust, and you put a fan on that, it would blow anywhere in the United States, in the coldest parts and in the warmest parts. It'll blow 55-degree temperature all the time. Now, I don't
Right.
think we're counting Alaska. I'm going continental US.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
but
So
55,
that's easy to increase or decrease to the temperature you want after that. Yeah. So if it's 10 degrees outside and you can increase it to 55, heating the rest of your house to
right?
whatever the next 10 degrees is, then, you know, you can lower your cost significantly.
An exhaust fan, 6-inch diameter pipe was 149. 8-inch was like 199. But again, that's kind of cool. So the deal is, they say you actually need to have a drop in the pipe of 1 inch for every 10 feet to make sure moisture doesn't accumulate. And then you just put a vent stack at the back end, at the low
Mhm.
point. And then the other one come up, and you just blow that fan and put a couple of ducts into your house. Now, you could have that blow into your AC system, like for the air intake. You could cut
Mhm.
it right into that ventilation, and then it would add to that, heating or cooling. And you can set a thermostat on that fan that I was talking about for when. So I'm just saying, these are things like, if you lived off grid, that you were like, how do I make mine better? This is something you could have the control of. If you live in city apartment, probably not in your control. So Kevin said number one is HVAC. So that's a big thing. Thermostats, changing your filters, big thing. Next thing, well, the next big one is actually your water heater. So
That's
they
right.
always say, you can bump that down a little bit on the temperature, but I
Mhm.
do like my hot showers. But turns out,
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a way that you can, increase efficiency, is lowering the water temperature in the hot water heater. My wife, though, I'm fine with that. But my
right?
wife, though, she feels like when she takes a shower, she needs to melt her skin off of her
Yes,
body. I've gotten in
that's
the
the way
shower
I am.
after
Yep.
her and like, what the hell, bro?
Right. So
You remember that scene from um Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade where the guy drinks from the wrong goblet and all his body starts melting? That's what happens when I get in the shower after my wife.
exactly. My wife's always like that. Why is it so hot when I get in there? And I'm like, well, because I have to keep turning it up as the shower goes on, as there's less hot water. But anyway, so there's that. Two, you could wrap that hot water heater in insulation. Doesn't look
That's right.
pretty, but it actually helps.
Mhm.
Three, you can buy the right size water heater that's going to satisfy your house. So a lot of times people are actually heating a larger volume of water than they need to.
Right.
The rich people always have the like 100-gallon water heaters. They were outlawing them in New York when
Were they?
I left. Yeah, that was a big thing. Like, building code said you couldn't exceed 40 gallons or whatever.
Mhm.
There was a limit on the side because there's a lot of mansions and whatever, the rich, the swells that live in New York.
Yeah.
All right.
That don't actually live in New York. They
Right.
just have a house there.
Now they do, so if you're just like single guy or whatever, and you're never really home or whatever, you're home 10 hours a day, you can also put a timer on your water heater.
Mhm.
Turns out a regular garden timer, I know you're thinking, oh, well, my water heater runs off 220. Well, you only have to put a timer on one of the two lines, right? So you could run it in and have it shut off. If you shut off one leg of a 220 circuit, it'll stop it. And anyway,
Mhm.
you could do that. So you could put your water heater on a timer to have times, but again, it does have to heat the water back up. But
Right.
again,
So it has to be on for a while before you start using it.
Yeah. And, and now I always wonder like, oh, well, does the reheating use more electricity? And it does if it's a very short time, but if you're shutting it off for 12 hours, it is going to make a difference.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing is lighting. I kept reading all these stories that are like, yeah, put in LED bulbs. And I'm like, who hasn't done that? Like
Right.
I thought we all were there already, you know?
Yeah, and you can't even find an incandescent
Yeah, you
light
can't
bulb
even buy.
at a
They're like
hardware
illegal
store
to
anymore.
sell. Right.
Hmm.
So I don't even understand that. Um,
So I saw a guy was one of the places I was working at. He set up a little box with a light bulb to keep one of the lines from
for heat.
freezing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but an
And
LED light bulb that he's got in
that
there.
didn't
I'm like,
work out well.
you're not doing anything, bro.
I just
Uh,
did that. Actually, I just insulated the hell out of my well houses so I don't need a light.
mhm.
But I was running a light there, and I actually had that problem of trying to find an incandescent bulb.
Uh,
Turns out you want to look up ones for like heating your kid's snake tank or lizard tank. There's like
oh,
little
okay.
reptile bulbs that'll plug into
Mhm.
a regular socket, and you can then get the 40 watt or the whatever,
Yeah, lighting doesn't use that much. But it is significant. So turn your lights off. Listen to your grandma. Turn the lights off when you leave the room.
12%.
Hmm.
But then the next big one is your washer dryer. Turns out there was this thing they invented a couple of years back called a clothesline.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw somebody use a clothesline? Like that's so beneath us. Like,
No,
oh,
I use one, not all the time, but I mean, listen, girls got things like sweaters and bras that can't go in the dryer. You got to hang some of that stuff up.
you got to hang it, right?
Hmm.
I thought they didn't want their unmentionables out for the world to
You
see.
just let them dangle out there. Yeah.
That used to be a thing that people would
Uh-huh.
throw them out there and you would see what's going on. So that's something to think about. Refrigerators about 4%. Washer dryer
Also,
were 13. Yeah, go ahead.
also washer and dryer, you do full loads. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
When you're doing your laundry, you can save money by doing full loads. It costs a little bit more to dry a large load than a small load, but it's the same,
right. Right.
it's the same thing.
Now, if you're out
Um,
in California or whatever, they're worried about water also. So, that makes a big difference. If you want to use cold water with your wash. Now, I know you're like, well, yeah, but then my clothes don't come clean. And yeah, that part's true. But really, do you care that much if you get most of the crap off? Like,
I mean, you're putting soap in there. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
you are
It
using soap.
it'll
So
get clean. It's fine.
I
It's
just
fine.
use cold.
Yeah.
4% for the refrigerator. So they talk about, buying an Energy Star refrigerator. Believe it or not, what makes a refrigerator like meet Energy Star standards is it's all about the defrost system.
Hmm.
It's not, everyone's like, oh, the evil compressor cooling the refrigerator all the time. It's not that. But I will say, if you clean the coils in the back of your fridge, it will run a lot less and it will
Hmm.
use a lot less electricity.
That's right.
But the big thing,
Not many people dust those coils, pull the refrigerator out and dust those coils.
it's usually the front along the bottom in the front, or it's in the
Hmm.
back. You'll see a little vent all clogged with dust. Wherever the dust is, that's where it needs to be cleaned because that
Yeah.
turns out you'll see it. Bringing the air compressor in, blowing out
And just
underneath.
blow it out. Yep. And then you can
Makes a big
sneeze for the next 6 hours and
Yeah,
problem solved.
Kevin, it's worth it when you can cut down that electric bill. So we all make sacrifices.
That's
The
right.
electric oven, 3 to 4%. Yeah, it consumes a lot of electricity when you use it. It does suck when you leave it on at
Yeah.
400 for forever. So don't do that. But that's not dishwashers, about
Now
2%.
back
Yeah.
up real quick to the ovens and toasters, ranges, all that sort of stuff. You can cut down on that cost by using smaller things
Oh, I
like
thought you
a
meant grill.
microwave
Oh,
toaster oven. If you're not making a whole big turkey, just stick it in the toaster oven and cook it that way. You can use a lot less electricity.
I like it. I would say if you're worried about the electric bill, don't buy an electric car or get one of those jobs where you can charge it at work. Turns
Mhm.
out I've seen some of that where it's like free or stupid cheap to charge at your job, which is kind
Mhm.
of blows my mind a little bit.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
hey, okay, you do it, right? Um, so yeah, right now, you want to think about phantom power users, but again, they're not as big as you think. Like you guys just saw the percentages, or we just discussed the percentages of usage. TVs and electronics are like 3% of
Right.
your electric bill. So honestly, you're not going to make the huge difference by worrying about phantom power or vampire power they always talk about.
Mhm.
But, throwing stuff on a power strip, if you're trying to cut down everything, does make a difference.
It does.
Uh,
And if
not
your TV's running all day long, then that 3% is not going to be 3%.
Yeah. But I got to
Watch
say,
less TV.
LED TVs, again, LED makes a big difference. It really does. When you purchase appliances, look at the little energy tags. Turns out they mean something. And it just explains the usage throughout the year of that device. And you can kind of get a better feel. And it'll tell you how many hours, are expected usage.
Mhm.
So think about that. I think having detergents, they make stuff that works with cold water even better. I know Kevin said soap. So, makes a big difference in your laundry. So, that's something. Clotheslines, dryer balls, they actually say break it up and make it, because they separate the items as they're drying and it'll
Mhm.
cause it to dry faster. Um, Believe it or not, if you really cared about things, there's the more dry setting will shut it off as soon as it's dry. Whereas when you use the timer, it just keeps
It
running.
just runs until it's
So that
goes.
is something to be aware of. It turns out most of you are adults and have been using a dryer and understand how that works. So
Mhm.
I don't think I need to push that. Also, turns out they do charge less if you're using your electricity at nighttime.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's true.
really sure how that works, but like how they
There's
it
higher
turns
demand
out.
during the day, right?
No, I
That's
know,
why
but
it's
how do they know what's happening? Like
yeah.
I don't know, whatever. We'll just say, AI probably figures it out, right? I don't
They
know
haven't
who was
figured out my
figuring it out
electric bill yet.
before, right? But I mean, that's the gist of it. So the bottom line is there are things we can do. There's steps we can all take, and again, you can do it because you care about the planet. You can do it because you hate paying money. You can do it because you're scared of the future and not having any money and being broke. I work so much. Turns out shutting some things off might, actually help to like shrink those hours that I need to work. It turns out in your normal like household budget, there's only two things you can change. You can change how much money you're bringing in or how much money's going out, right? In big strokes, right? Obviously, you
Right.
can change a lot of things. But to cut down how much money's going out, this is actually a significant place that you can start and kind of cut back and things. So I'm just saying. But I would also say that paying $20,000 to get efficient windows that are going to last for about 15 years, and you do the math on what you spend on heating and cooling, turns out that doesn't really help. Um, if so, see what you can do. Buy maybe a tube of caulk, get
Yeah.
some
Start there.
gasket stuff,
Uh-huh.
put that insulation that fell out of the floor stuff back
Right.
up. Make sure they're all there and intact. That stuff will actually help you a lot more. So,
Mhm.
anyway, start there. I appreciate you guys. I just think, as a prepper, we're all trying to make it that we can kind of go on forever, right? And in order to do that, we got to have enough money to, because we want to go on forever thriving, right? We want to
Right.
enjoy life and have things be, the way they should be. So, by cutting down the budget, doing it all, it's just one more step to get us in the right direction. So, with that, stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.